Previously, in part 1 of the Midnight Drum, Kelechi uncovered the dark secret hidden by the elders of Odu. The Midnight Drum was no mystery to solve. It was a curse to fear. Marked by the keeper, Kelechi stood against tradition as the village divided between sacrifice and freedom. Now the drum beats louder, the pact unravels, and the final choice must be made. This is the concluding part of the Midnight Drum, a tale of truth, sacrifice, and destiny. Kelechi stood at the center of the square, trembling yet unbroken. His markings blazed brighter with every beat of the drum. He looked around at the faces of his people, terrified, angry, desperate, and felt the burden of their future pressing onto his small shoulders. His mother's hands clutched his, her voice trembling. "Kelechi, my son, you do not have to carry this alone. Let the elders pay the price," but he shook his head. "If I run, the curse will remain. If I hide, others will suffer. I must face it." The keeper's voice echoed in the silence. "Courage and doom walk the same road, boy. Step forward and the choice will bind not only you, but all who come after." Kelechi's legs shook, but he lifted his chin. "Then let me choose. I will face the drum. I will end this." The crowd fell silent. Even the elders bowed their heads, powerless against the will of the boy who bore the mark. For the first time in Odu's history, it was not an elder nor a warrior, but a child who stood against the curse that had chained them for generations. The keeper turned, and the smoky tendrils of its form swept toward the forest. The drumbeat quickened, calling Kelechi forward. With each step he took, the markings on his arm glowed like fire, lighting the path into the trees. The villagers followed at a distance, whispering prayers, their torches flickering. The forest seemed alive, watching them. Branches twisted into strange shapes, and shadows moved without wind. As they approached the circle of stones, the air grew heavy, pressing down like the weight of 1,000 voices. There in the center sat the drum, glowing faintly as it had when Kelechi first saw it. But now it pulsed with anger, the rhythm fast and violent. The ground shook with each strike. The keeper raised its arm. "Here lies the heart of your fear. Break it, and the pact will shatter. Seal it, and the curse will endure. The choice is yours, child of Odu." The villagers gasped, many crying out for Kelechi to turn back. But the boy stepped into the circle, his small frame dwarfed by the great drum. His breath came hard, his heart pounded, and for a moment he wondered if this was courage or pure madness. Yet still, he walked forward. As Kelechi drew closer, the drum's voice shifted, the pounding slowed, and within the rhythm came whispers, soft, tempting, and sharp. "Touch me," it said. "Claim me. I can make you more than a boy. I can make you stronger than the elders, greater than the keeper itself. You will be the master of Odu." Kelechi froze. The voice was not thunderous but soothing, weaving through his thoughts. His hands trembled as the markings on his arm pulsed in time with the beat. Behind him, the villagers cried out, warning him not to listen. The keeper's shadow loomed. "Do not trust its voice. It feeds on your desire. Its promises are snares, but the drum's whispers coiled tighter. They lied to you, Kelechi. The elders hid the truth. They sacrificed your people. Why should you save them? Break the pact and rule them. Strike me not to destroy, but to command." Kelechi's heart pounded. He was just a boy, yet for the first time he felt the lure of power. He could end his suffering, rise above their fear, and be remembered not only as a hero but as a king. For a long moment he wavered at the edge of choice. Just as Kelechi's hand reached toward the drum, the air shifted. A low hum rose from the forest floor, and the wind carried voices, soft, sorrowful, but filled with strength, the voices of the ancestors. "My child," they whispered, "do not be deceived. We are the ones who suffered. who vanished when the pact was made. We were bound to the drum, our spirits locked in silence. Free us, and free yourself. The glow of his markings spread across his chest and face, and Kelechi saw faint outlines of figures surrounding him, men and women, young and old, their eyes shining with tears. They looked not like monsters, but like family, long forgotten. The boy's chest tightened. He turned back to the villagers and saw the same faces mirrored, descendants of those trapped, living under a curse they never chose. The keeper bowed its head. You see the truth. The drum is not power. It is prison. The pact was made to spare the living, but condemned the dead. The choice is still yours. Kelechi's trembling hand dropped to his side. The whispers of the drum grew frantic, promising riches, strength, immortality, but the voices of the ancestors drowned them out. Free us, they whispered. Break the chain. Kelechi lifted the staff the keeper had given him. Its weight felt impossibly heavy in his small hands, but he raised it high above his head. The villagers held their breath, and even the forest fell silent. Only the drum continued its furious pounding, each beat shaking the ground. Do not, it screamed, break me, and your people will fall to famine and plague. The spirits will consume you. You will destroy all of Odu. Kelechi's heart thundered, but he remembered the faces of the ancestors, their sorrow and their plea for freedom. With a cry that came from the deepest part of his soul, he swung the staff down. The strike echoed like thunder. The drum cracked, light pouring from its seams. The ground split, and a sound unlike any heard before shook the forest, a wail, long and terrible as if the world itself was tearing apart. Villagers screamed and fell to their knees. The keeper's form shook violently, its smoky tendrils snapping and recoiling. It is done, it whispered, voice faint and breaking. The pact is shattered. The drum collapsed in on itself, turning to ash that blew away on the wind. For the first time in centuries, the midnight drum was silent. When the dust cleared, the keeper stood smaller, its form dimming. Its eyes glowed softly, no longer fierce but weary. It turned to Kelechi, who stood panting, the staff slipping from his trembling hands. You have done what no elder dared, the keeper said. You broke the chain of the living and the dead. The spirits are free, and so am I. From the forest came soft sighs, then laughter and tears as the ancestors' spirits rose into the night sky. One by one they vanished into the stars, leaving trails of light behind them. The villagers watched in awe, tears streaming down their faces. Some reached out as if to touch the fading glow. Others clung to each other, whispering prayers of thanks. The keeper's smoky body unraveled, drifting upward with the ancestors. Remember, boy, it said, bravery is not in seeking power but in carrying the weight of sacrifice. Tell their stories. Keep their names alive. With that, the keeper dissolved, leaving only silence and the faint scent of rain. The forest, once heavy with shadows, now seemed lighter, as if breathing again for the first time. Kelechi collapsed into his mother's arms, the markings on his arm fading to nothing but faint scars. The villagers carried Kelechi back to the square, lifting him high on their shoulders. For the first time, their songs were not of fear but of freedom. Children laughed, elders wept, and mothers clutched their sons and daughters with renewed hope. The council of elders, broken and shamed, bowed before the people. Baba Orji, stripped of his staff, whispered, "Forgive us. We thought silence was protection, but it was only fear. The boy has done what we could not." Kelechi, though weary, stood tall. "Do not praise me alone," he said. "The ancestors gave me strength. And it was your voices, your anger, your courage, that ended the silence. We are free because we chose truth over fear." The people roared in agreement, lifting their torches high. The curse of the midnight drum had ended, but a new dawn had risen. A dawn built not on lies and silence, but on courage, and unity. That night, the village of Odu did not tremble when midnight came. For the first time in living memory, no drumbeat echoed across the land. Instead, the people slept in peace, their dreams no longer bound by the shadows of the past. When the sun rose over Odu the next day, the village seemed transformed. The air was lighter, and the sky bluer than anyone could remember. Birds that had long vanished from the forest returned, their songs filling the air. Children ran through the square laughing, no longer hushed by fearful mothers. The people gathered in small groups, retelling the night's events with awe. For the first time, their voices carried not dread, but pride. Kelechi walked among them quietly. Though many called him a hero, he still felt the weight of what had passed. The faces of the ancestors lingered in his mind, their sorrow and their freedom now etched into his heart. His arm still bore the faint scars of the markings, a reminder that the curse had once lived within him. His mother held him close. "You have given us a future, my son. You have given us peace." But in Kelechi's eyes there was a distant look. He had faced spirits, shattered a curse, and spoken with the dead. Though the village rejoiced, he knew some mysteries would never leave him. The council of elders gathered in shame. Their hut, once a place of authority, was now filled with silence. Baba Orji sat apart, his hands trembling as he stared at the ground. "We have lost their trust," one elder whispered. "They will never listen to us again." Baba Orji's eyes flickered with both grief and bitterness. "We were guardians of survival." "They do not understand the burdens we carried," another elder shook his head. "No, Orji. We were guardians of fear. We chose silence when we should have chosen truth." Outside, the people rebuilt their lives without the guidance of the elders. Younger men and women rose to speak, their voices bold. The old order had fallen, and a new spirit of unity was taking its place. For Baba Orji, the fall was too heavy to bear. He left the hut that night and vanished into the forest. Some said he sought the ashes of the drum. Others believed he wandered until the spirits claimed him. He was never seen again. Around the fires at night, the people began to weave stories of the midnight drum. Children leaned close as the tale was told, how a boy marked by courage had defied death itself, how the ancestors were freed, and how silence was broken at last. Some stories painted the drum as a monster, others described it as a prison, but all agreed that its beat had ruled them for too long, and it was the bravery of one child that had ended its reign. Kelechi listened in silence when his story was told. He did not boast, nor did he add to the tale. He knew that stories grew with time, that heroes became larger than life. But in his heart, he remembered the truth, the fear, the whispers, the temptation of power, and he remembered the keeper's final words. Bravery is not in seeking power, but in carrying the weight of sacrifice. He carried those words as a seed in his heart, a reminder that even legends are born from choices made in fear and pain. Seasons passed, and Odu began to flourish. Crops grew richer, and trade with neighboring villages expanded. The fear that once chained them had given way to boldness. Men and women ventured farther into the forests, unafraid of shadows. Kelechi grew taller, his eyes sharper, though he never sought the place where the drum had been. The forest was free and so were its spirits. He did not wish to awaken old wounds. One evening, as the sun bled across the horizon, Kelechi's mother asked him, "Do you regret it, my son? Do you regret breaking the drum?" He looked at her and shook his head slowly. "No, it was not just my choice. It was the choice of all of us. The curse ended because the village found its voice. We will never be silent again." His mother smiled, tears in her eyes. "Then we owe our future to both courage and truth." And with that, Odu began its journey into a new chapter, one not bound by fear, but by the lessons of the past. Years later, on a quiet night, Kelechi stood at the edge of the forest. He was no longer a boy, but a young man, strong and wise beyond his years. He listened to the wind rustling through the trees, half expecting, half fearing to hear the old midnight drum. But the forest was silent, save for the natural sounds of life returning. Still deep in the earth, he thought he felt a faint vibration, as if a memory lingered, the last echo of the curse that once ruled them. He closed his eyes and whispered, "May you never rise again." Then he turned back toward the village, where laughter and song carried into the night. The people of Odu no longer lived under the shadow of fear. They had learned that some mysteries are not meant to be solved, and some warnings must be heeded. The midnight drum was gone, but its story lived on, a reminder of the thin line between bravery and doom, and the power of truth to break even the oldest chains. And so, Odu endured, forever marked by the night when a boy chose courage over silence, and the world changed with the echo of a broken drum. If you enjoyed this story and want to hear more timeless African folk tales, make sure to subscribe to Tales of Africa, hit the notification bell, and join us as we explore the legends, mysteries, and magic of Africa's past. Every story holds a lesson. Don't miss the next one.